So did you know everyone has hidden talents? Superpowers, if you will? So mine is I can melt ice cubes simply by staring at them. I mean, it takes a while, but it does work. Hey kids, it's Adam here. Today we are going to go through two different methods in Reaper to add a clap, like a, that kind of clap, disco clap to your snare drum. First example is going to be more of a pop style disco thingamajigger to enhance the snare drum. And the second one will be maybe I want a part of a song where I just want to add a clap along with the snare. Instead of having it through the whole song, I want to make this more of a prominent actual clapping. So we'll get into it. All right, this song is Under the Moonlight, released by my band Underground Hive a few months ago. I will leave a link to Underground Hive in the description, and I won't keep bugging you to listen to these songs. I'll just leave it in there every time, and this will be the material that I use. Feel free to go check it out. We're on all streaming platforms. So we have a song here. This is a very, very, very funk, pop, disco feel type song. And I got the snare mixed relatively decently. I've had issues with this set of recordings with the snare altogether. I may go into that in another set of videos, but for now, we'll just kind of stick to what we have. And I have it mixed. I have a whole bunch of plugins on it. I have it gated. I have compression. I have basically done. But here's just a part of the chorus and where the snare is right now without any additional claps added onto it. Here we go. And the snare alone, just by itself, with all the processing, with all parallel compression and everything. So it kind of sounds like crap. We'll add it with the whole kit. So with the overhead, it doesn't sound bad. It still has some weird ringy stuff that I did do a lot of EQing to get that out of there, but it's not great. I would rather have it be I'd rather have it sound better. So what I did after I tried resampling the snare in 47 different snares and different things, tried to sample itself, tried to sample from another song, it wasn't working for me. And I actually on my playlist heard a new Master Sounds version of Treasure by Bruno Mars, and kind of remembered, the Bruno Mars sound, that snare would work perfectly in here. I know that's a heavily sampled, probably a drum machine, not even a real kit. Although with Bruno Mars, you never know. But I wanted to kind of emulate that. So I decided, what if we added a clap along with every single snare drum? So every hit had the clap with it. The clap. Never mind. Kind of wanted to not really add beef to it. Beef is a word I use too much. I love beef. Like a nice juicy steak or a giant cheeseburger, just bacon on cheese and lettuce, tomato, ketchup, mayo, maybe fried onions. This clap sound. I wanted to add that to every snare. I wanted to do it easy way, and I wanted to make it exact. My drummer has a tendency to play really, really behind the beat, and it's a great sound. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to time align this or anything like that. We're going to have that behind the beat feel that, is prevalent in funk music. So, but the problem is adding a sample to that makes it hard. I can't just go in and draw in little MIDI notes on every one. I have to then align them and everything. So let's see what we can do. I want to trigger the sound from the snare drum to pull in a clap. So I'm using Easy Drummer 2 here. We'll pull up my Easy Drummer settings here. I have a number of kits here. I have, one of the ones is Number One Hits, which is a drum machine. And, there's all sorts of fun stuff. And in here, there's a clap sound. Basically, I go into Easy Drum, I figure out what sound I want first before I start messing with any of the triggering. What you want to do is you want to make sure you go into details and you hit this little key button here. And I will zoom in on this so you can see this hopefully. This changes the note, and the note number is 39. That's going to be important. That's the MIDI note that this sound is. So I'm not a MIDI expert by any means, but MIDI is essentially just like a big text file with instructions on what to point at. And in the MIDI file, it's the claps are note 39, and then you can choose all your different various sounds, and the sampler hands them and blah, blah, blah. Somebody much smarter than me can deal with, explaining what MIDI is. But the main thing is I want to know that this is note number 39. So I have my clap. Thank you. You're too kind. Okay, now that you have this set up, you want to add ReaGate to your snare track. What you want to make sure you do here, all the defaults here are fine. Main inputs, attack and release times. Make sure you don't have a high pass or low pass or anything. Change the wet output all the way down to nothing, negative infinity, because you don't want the snare, you don't want this actually gating the snare. You just want it sending a trigger. And then what you want to do is you want to check this send MIDI note on open close, and you want to choose that magic number 39 that we found in Easy Drummer. And then we want to solo out the snare here. We will still mute this gate, this Easy Drummer track. And you basically want to go in and you want to make sure you're triggering your snare to have some output. So then we unmute this. It's going to come in with the clap sound. And I'll solo the clap. So there you go. You have a clap on every one of the snares that falls under this threshold. So let's go listen to the whole kit without the clap, and then I'll add it halfway through. Now adding it in. So yeah, I did a lot of volume blending. I made sure that I had, I didn't want the clap to be very, very, very prevalent. In fact, what I kind of wanted is if you listened to it and didn't know there was a clapping sound there, you may not even realize it. You can hear it much better in headphones or earbuds, but just on the through my monitors here, it adds a layer of snap and high end. And of course, I put a ton of reverb on it, so it adds an extra bit of reverb that's not on the snare itself, but actually on that real tight hit on the clap. The clap. There's that joke again. So anyway, so that's the first project. Let's move on to the second way of doing this. All right, so here we are in this other project. This is you guys saw this in the kick project that I was working on. This is what I wanted to do here is there are a couple of choruses. You can actually see the notes that are coming in here. A couple of choruses, and then towards the end that I wanted use the clap as a percussive element. Again, I could have just gone into the MIDI editor and drawn out notes using that Easy Drummer sound that we used the last time. But I just felt that wasn't the right approach. I wanted it to actually be its own percussive element. But I knew I also wanted it to follow the snare. I wanted a level above the snare. I wanted it to follow the exact same snare hits. So here's what I did for this one. I'm going to use a completely different set of plugins here. All right, the first thing you want to do here is you want to add another track. And I already added the track. I'm not going to go through it. We call it claps here because it's claps. And you want to add the plugin Resamplomatic 5000 Deluxe Supreme with tomatoes and sour cream. I don't know if that's the full name of it or not, but that's what I'm calling it for now. I leave everything here default, and then I went in and I browsed, and I had a number of clap sounds that I had, and I just brought all three in. Didn't really know which one I wanted to use, so I imported those. If you go to list, I have them here, and if you double click on them, they'll play. So here's that one. I kind of like the first one, so I stuck with that. So what we have here is we have a sampler that whenever it's triggered is going to play this note. Now, how do we trigger it? That's what we need to figure out. So we can close this down for now. That's really all we need to do in here. I want to say one thing you want to make sure of is that your sample, depending on how you're lining it up with your snare, you don't want to have it overlaps. You don't want to have the sample overlap into the next snare, because then when the sample triggers again, you're going to get all sorts of weird extra wash that you don't want in it. So now that we have that, first thing I wanted to do is I made a copy of the snare and I edited it down to where I wanted the actual hits. So if you see here, expand it out a little bit, I just basically did every other hit. And I even kept some of the little hits in here. I'll show you why it doesn't really matter in a second. But I wanted it to line up exactly. I wanted it to be an exact duplicate of this track. Now, what we need to do to get this figured out in how to trigger it, we first need to find out how loud these things are. What you can do there is you go to Actions, Show Action List, and in the action list, type in transient detect, that's enough. And the first one, you want this transient detection sensitivity threshold adjust. So you double click on that, and then click on the media item. Make sure you have your media item that you're triggering off of, which is a snare. Leave sensitivity at 50%, and then you can see these tiny little greenish lines that will move as I move this up and down. What you want to do is you want to pull them in so that they're pulling on just somewhere in there, right on the edge of the transient. If you put them too far down, you're going to get everything, like hi-hat wash, all sorts of stuff on those hits that come in. You know, if we put it all the way down here at -60, it's going to take everything that comes through and you'll just get a giant mess. Here it was like -14.2 or 3 or somewhere in there. We'll just leave it at that. And then you can close this down. This doesn't actually change anything. This just does a detection. And what you want is you want this number. So remember that number, -14.2. Then what you want to do is you want to add a plugin. It's a JS plugin called Audio to MIDI Drum Trigger. You want to add that on your trigger track. This is the second track that we created here with all the items on it. And, okay, 14.6, I lied. You want to put in for the open and close threshold this number, this -14.6 number, 14.2 or whatever it happens to be in your case. But this is the main thing. You just want to get this set up. And then finally, you want to send a copy of your snare trigger track over to your claps track. And you do that by clicking on the route button, and it changes to a jack, and you do that. And I just did it again, and I'm going to delete it. But there's nothing, you don't have to do anything here. You leave everything as defaults. And one thing you probably want, because you don't want the original snare sound to come in, just take your fader and put it all the way down for your trigger track. So what we have after that whole mess, and if I mute the snare itself, so every time there's a wave, there's a clap. Okay, so let's play this in the context of just the kit. And you can hear that the claps are this percussive element now and not just part of the snare drum. Boots and pants and boots. And now let's play the whole song. Keep my eyes off you. No matter what I do, I can't. So thanks for joining us for this entire video. If you made it this far. If you didn't make it this far, you won't be hearing what I'm saying, so I'm not really sure why I'm saying this. But if you like what you heard, click the thumbs up button, leave me a comment, tell me you liked it, tell me you hated it. Click thumbs up anyway, and then tell me you hated it. That would look better for my channel. But, really, seriously, if you don't like it, click the thumbs down button. Not a lot of people like my humor. I sometimes don't like my humor. If you could subscribe to the channel, click that little ringy bell thingy so that you get all these blow-ups on your phone whenever I upload a new video. And do you like Coke? I like Coca-Cola. I like it a lot. So if you want to help me out, click the Buy Me a Coke link, and you can buy me a Coke. Coke is good. No, that's not what's their slogan? I don't remember what their slogan is. Until next time. But anyway, what were we talking about? Where am I? Oh. Hi, YouTube. I'm Dad. Let's try this again.